Hi, how are you doing today? We're doing an exciting video because it's another series discussion. This time for a series I'm very excited to talk about, so let's just get into things. As you might be able to tell, we're talking about the Twisted series by Huang, which is a series of 4 interconnected standalone romances. I would say for this series, read them in order because some of the events in the earlier books play a part in the later books and stuff like that. But yeah, this series, I'm gonna give you synopses as I get to each individual books and the individual book reviews. So let's start this off with my ranking of this series. Like always, this is from my least favorite to my favorite. So my least favorite ended up being Twisted Hate by Anna Huang, of course. I don't know why I said the author, it's Twisted Hate. Then on the third place, we have Twisted Love. And then second, we have Twisted Lies, and my favorite in the series is Twisted Games. That fell over. Now I'm gonna go into individual reviews for these books so you know why they're ranked where they are. If you've never seen a series discussion video from me before, just know that this will be entirely spoiler free, so you have nothing to worry about if you have not read these books yet. The first book in this series is Twisted Love. In this one, we follow Ava and Alex, and Alex is Ava's brother's best friend, and like Ava's brother is going out of the country as part of he's doing a semester abroad basically, and they live in like houses next to each other, and he asks Alex to like live in the house but also like at the same time keep an eye out on Ava. And at first they don't get along really well. They don't necessarily hate each other, but they aren't like super close. But then as the book progresses, of course, they're not falling for each other because it's a romance. So as you can tell, it's a brother's best friend romance. I give this 1 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this book. I loved our 2 main characters and individual journeys they went on in this book. Just like this entire series has very like high stakes and intense like personal plot lines, which I always thought wasn't really my thing when it came to romance, but this book is the first one that like really proved me wrong in that, because I really enjoyed the element in this book. I thought it just added something extra to it that I just had a lot of fun reading. I thought this had a really compelling plot with many twists and turns. Like I said, it is a bit darker than I typically thought I would like from romance, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And I also really liked the romance in this book. I thought that was really well developed, and I liked how it progressed throughout the book. I also liked that after the third act conflict, which is a pretty big deal, and I like the fact that there was a lot of groveling to be done until that was resolved. I thought Anna did that greatly with this book. So if you're looking for a groveling romance, the only reason why this wasn't a 5-star for me is because Alex just was a bit too intense for me, which is gonna sound stupid because there are a lot of like intense or like possessive heroes in Anna Huang's books just in general, and there are times I don't have an issue with it, but with Alex it just, I don't know, I have a line apparently, and Alex crossed that a couple of times. And then the second book is Twisted Games, and in this one we follow Bridget, who is a princess to Eldora, and she basically, because she's not next in line her brother is, she gets a little bit more freedoms in her life, and she very much takes those opportunities and like tries to live as free as she can. And then towards the start of this book, she gets a new bodyguard because her usual bodyguard goes like on paternity leave, so she gets a new one, and he is very well known to be like one of the best bodyguards in the business, and he is very set on safety and rules, and it's the way to attain safety, and that goes against the freedoms that Bridget wants for herself. So they kind of butt heads, but as you can tell, it's a romance. It's a bodyguard romance, it's a royalty romance. I give this 5 out of 5 stars. As you saw from my ranking, this is my favorite in the series. I love it so much. I have always loved royalty in books. Most of the times that I've read it though has been in fantasy. I haven't read a lot of contemporary with royalty in it, but it's also one of my favorite aspects of this book is the whole royalty storyline. I also really loved the 2 main characters. I thought they had a great dynamic together, but I also really loved them separately. Like I said, I love Bridget's personal storyline, but like I also really liked Reese's. And like I said, they had a great dynamic together. Like even in the beginning when like they didn't like each other that much, I still feel like there was this sort of respect that they had for each other when it came to just like being in more high stakes situations sometimes. And I really loved how that developed like a friendship and eventually like a romance, and I liked how that was done. There's the reason why this is a book that I love so much is because I feel like there's a lot of little things in this that I just adore so much that I can't really go into because it's very like small detailed things, like just kind of scenes I like in books, and I like the way that those were executed, and I had a big smile on my face throughout most of the time reading this book. I also just absolutely flew through it. I did not want to put it down, and I adored it so much. And then next we have Twisted Hate, which follows Josh and Jules, who absolutely hate each other, but that is a bit of an issue as Josh is Ava's brother that was mentioned in the first book, the description, and obviously this follows like the whole friend group and their romances. So Jules and Ava are like really close friends. They actually used to live together, also in book one. So, you know, that's arised some conflict in the past. And now towards the beginning of this book, there's a couple of times life pushes them together, and it starts happening so often that they just can't deny their sexual attraction to each other anymore, and they decide to like go into this enemies with benefits type relationship. I give this 3 out of 5 stars. I think for the most of this book, this kind of went like Twisted Love for me, where I was enjoying it, but I wasn't like in love with it. I didn't really like Josh and Jules and their individual storylines. They had very interesting things going on. We do kind of go into events of that first book with Josh in this one, which I also really like because I feel like that made everything feel like very real, because there are some really big stuff that happened in Twisted Love, and they happen to Ava, but it does affect Josh as well because they're siblings. And I liked how that was incorporated into this story. I also really loved the enemies with benefits dynamic that they had set up and how that eventually developed into a relationship. I'm a big fan of the friends with benefits trope. I knew that, and I was a bit nervous to see if that would translate well into the enemies with benefits as well, and it did. At least in this book, I thought it was really well done. I also thought Josh and Jules had great banter together. That's something I really liked. The only thing that eventually kept me from giving it a 4-star like I did with Twisted Love is the third conflict. I just really didn't like it. Again, this is something that crossed the line that I apparently have. I thought it was a little bit too much, and therefore I just didn't root for the relationship anymore. And then lastly, we have Twisted Lies, which follows Christian and Stella. Christian is a CEO that owns this apartment building that Jules and Stella move into in book 3, and Stella is a fashion influencer, but she also works at a fashion magazine, I believe it is, like a publication anyway, and she at the start of the book gets fired from that job, and she still needs money, and there was like this big opportunity for a big brand deal coming up, but her account has kind of been stagnant. So her manager is like, hey, you know what's really popular right now? It's influencer couples. So how about you fake date someone, and that will bring up your engagement, your following, and give you a higher opportunity at getting this brand deal that, one, you need the money of, and two, is just like a big dream of yours. So she ends up fake dating Christian, who kind of has this fascination with Stella ever since he first met her. I give this 1 out of 5 stars. This went like Twisted Games for a really long time for me, where I was so obsessed with this book, and I was in hill reading it, and then times where I wasn't reading it, I was thinking about it. I really loved the relationship development in this book. I thought it was so well done. I love Christian, I love Stella, I love their personal journeys. This one also got really fucking intense and was very high stakes, and I just was having such a great time with this book. And then again, the third conflict ruined it for me. I thought it was so stupid, and then it also gets resolved fairly quickly, which just emphasizes to me how stupid it was. And yeah, let's just wrap this up with some overall thoughts on this series. I absolutely adore the friend group that's at the center of this series. Like Jules, Ava, Stella, and Bridget are really close friends they met in college. Like, even though they're all going into different ways in life, they're still really close, and I really love that friendship. And I love how no matter how busy they are, they always drop everything to just talk to their friend when they're going through something, and I really love that. And I loved how even though these books are focused on the romances, we still get so many of like these tiny moments between this friend group that by the end, the heart is just so full of love for them, and that's definitely my favorite aspect of this entire series. But overall, The books also were very great romances. I might not have been a big fan of the literary conflicts of the last two books. I still think the romances were all really well done and developed, and they, like I said before, they all had really high stakes plots, which was also really fun and like really kept me like reading and very engaged with the stories. And I also loved how different each book was. Like there's a lot of tropes that come back in the series, but I do think like those tropes are done so differently for each book, and because the characters are also different, they have different reactions to different elements that might be the same, and I really liked how unique every book felt, but it's still like fit together. And overall they were very addictive reads. Like I said before, I think I read most of these in like 1 day, 2 day tops. Let me know in the comment section below what you thought of these books, if you've read them. Definitely don't be scared to go into spoilers. I love discussing spoilers. Leave your thoughts on these books in a comment. Just leave a little spoiler warning at the top of your comment if you're going into spoilers, so people who have not read the series yet but are watching this video know not to read your comment. And then hopefully I'll see you right next time.